The day my dad bought the cabin, I thought he had finally lost it. Not in a dramatic way, not yelling or throwing things. Just quietly, like something inside him had snapped, and instead of giving up, he decided to take one last, impossible chance. My name is Ethan Carter. I was 12 years old when my dad spent the last $50 we had on something everyone else called a mistake. A ruined cabin in the middle of nowhere. $50? I asked, staring at him. He nodded. That's all he wanted. I looked back at the paper in his hand. The deal. The receipt. Proof that we had just traded our last bit of money for something that didn't even look livable. Dad, I said carefully, we don't have any money left. I know. And the car barely runs. I know. And that place, I pointed out the window toward the distant tree line. Looks like it's about to fall apart. He finally looked at me. For the first time that day, there was something different in his eyes. Not fear. Not doubt. Determination. We needed a chance, he said. And this is it. We had been struggling for a long time. Ever since my mom died. Everything after that felt like a slow collapse. First the medical bills. Then the house. Then the jobs. My dad worked harder than anyone I knew. 2 jobs sometimes. But it was never enough. It's like life had decided we were falling and kept pushing. The cabin was about 10 miles outside the nearest town, hidden deep in a patch of forest that looked like it had been forgotten years ago. The road leading to it wasn't really a road, more like a trail. The truck rattled the entire way there. Every bump felt like it might be the one that finally broke it for good. When we finally reached the clearing, I understood why it only cost $50. The cabin was bad. Really bad. The roof sagged in the middle. Half the wooden boards were warped or cracked. The windows were either broken or boarded up. And the front porch leaned at an angle that didn't seem safe. I stepped out of the truck slowly. This is it? I asked. My dad nodded. Yeah. I looked at him. Then back at the cabin. Then back at him again. You're serious? He gave a small smile. Completely. We stood there for a moment, just staring at it. The forest around us was quiet. Too quiet. Like even the birds had decided to stay away. I kicked a loose rock near my feet. Do we at least have a plan? My dad grabbed a toolbox from the back of the truck. Yeah. What is it? He looked at the cabin. We fix it. The front door didn't open. Not at first. It was stuck. Swollen wood pressed against the frame. My dad had to shoulder it twice before it finally gave way with a loud crack. Dust exploded into the air. The smell hit us immediately. Old wood. Dampness. Time. Inside, it was worse. The floor creaked with every step. The walls were stained. The ceiling had dark patches where water had leaked through. But underneath all of that, there was something else. Structure. The bones of the cabin were still strong. You could feel it. My dad walked slowly through the main room, taking it all in. It's not as bad as it looks, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure about that? He pointed to the beams. Those are solid. Then to the walls. Logs are still holding. Then to the fireplace. And that's fixable. I followed his gaze. A stone fireplace sat against one wall. Cracked. Covered in soot. But still standing. That first night, we didn't sleep inside. We slept in the truck. Mostly because the cabin wasn't safe yet. But also because neither of us fully trusted it. The forest creaked around us. Wind moved through the trees. And every now and then, something would shift inside the cabin. Old wood settling. At least, that's what I told myself. The next morning, we started working. There wasn't a lot we could do without money. But we could clean. We could clear. We could make it better than it was. My dad handed me a pair of gloves. Start with the floor. What about you? The roof. I looked up at the sagging mess above us. Be careful. He smiled. Always am. Days turned into a routine. Wake up. Work. Eat whatever we could afford. Work again. Sleep. Repeat. It wasn't easy. But it was something. And something is better than nothing. We fixed the door first. Then the windows. Then parts of the roof. Each small improvement made the place feel a little less like a ruin. And a little more like a home. About a week in, something changed. Not with the cabin. With us. We stopped seeing it as broken. And started seeing what it could be. It happened while I was cleaning the back room. It was smaller than the main area. Probably a bedroom at some point. The floorboards were covered in dirt and debris. I was sweeping when I noticed something strange. One of the boards sounded different. I tapped it with the handle of the broom. Thunk. Not hollow. But not solid either. Just different. I crouched down and brushed the dirt away. The edges of the board were cleaner than the others. Too clean. like it had been placed there on purpose. "Dad," I called. He didn't answer. He was still outside, working on the roof. I looked back at the board. My heart started beating faster. Because I'd seen something like this before. In movies. In stories. Hidden compartments. I grabbed a loose nail from the floor and used it to pry at the edge. At first, nothing happened. Then, the board shifted. Just slightly. Enough to confirm what I already knew. I pushed harder. The wood creaked. Then lifted. And underneath, there was a gap. I froze. Because suddenly, this ruined cabin didn't feel so ruined anymore. It felt like something else. Something hidden. Something waiting. And I had just found the first piece of it. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I just stared at the gap beneath the floorboard, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was echoing through the entire cabin. The ruined walls. The broken ceiling. The creaking wood around me. All of it suddenly felt different. Like the cabin wasn't empty at all. Like it had been hiding something the whole time. "Dad," I shouted. This time he heard me. I could hear his boots thudding across the roof, then down the ladder outside, then across the porch. The door swung open. "What is it?" he asked, slightly out of breath. I pointed to the floor. "There's something under here." He stepped closer, crouching beside me. "What do you mean?" I grabbed the loose board and lifted it fully. It came free with a long creak. And just like that, the hidden space was exposed. It wasn't big. Not at first glance. Just a rectangular compartment beneath the floor. But inside, there was something wrapped in thick, worn cloth. My dad leaned in. "What is that?" "I don't know." He reached down carefully and lifted it out. Dust fell from the fabric as he placed it on the floor beside us. We both stared at it for a moment. Then he slowly unwrapped it. Inside was a metal box. It wasn't large. About the size of a shoebox. But it looked old. Heavy. The surface was scratched and worn, but not rusted. Which meant it had been protected. Hidden. Preserved. My dad turned it over in his hands. "No lock," he said. "Open it," I whispered. He hesitated. Just for a second. Then flipped the latch. The lid creaked open. And everything changed. Inside the box were documents. Stacks of them. Carefully folded. Carefully preserved. And beneath them, something else. My dad picked up the top sheet. His eyes scanned the page. Then stopped. Then widened. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Just kept staring. Then slowly handed it to me. I looked down. At first, it didn't make sense. Numbers. Names. Official-looking stamps. Then it clicked. "This is a deed," I said. My dad nodded slowly. "Yeah. To what?" He swallowed. "To land." I flipped through the stack. More documents. More deeds. More signatures. Each one tied to something. Land parcels. Mineral rights. Ownership records. Why would this be hidden under a cabin? I asked. My dad didn't answer. Because he had found something else. At the bottom of the box, there was a smaller envelope. Sealed. He opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper. And a photograph. The photograph was old. Faded. It showed a man standing in front of the cabin. Younger. Stronger. Proud. Behind him, the forest. And something else. Something we hadn't noticed before. A clearing. Farther back. Where the trees opened up. My dad unfolded the paper. And read it silently. Then again. Slower. Like he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. "What does it say?" I asked. He looked at me. And for the first time since I'd known him, he looked stunned. "This cabin," he said slowly, "is sitting on top of something." We went outside immediately. The air felt different now. Sharper. Like the world had shifted just a little. My dad held the photograph up, comparing it to the land around us. "There," he said. We walked past the cabin. Through the trees. Following the same angle as the photo. The forest thinned out after about 50 yards. And then we saw it. A clearing. Just like in the picture. Wide. Flat. And covered in tall grass. "It's the same place," I said. My dad nodded. "Yeah." He looked down at the documents again. Then back at the land. Then back at me. "This land," he said slowly, "has mineral rights attached to it." I blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means whoever owns this land owns what's underneath it." I looked around. At the dirt. The grass. The empty clearing. "There's nothing here." My dad shook his head. "No." He pointed to the papers. "There is." We didn't understand it fully at first. Not until we went into town the next day. Not until we showed the documents to someone who did. The man at the office read through everything carefully. Page by page. His expression changed more with each one. Until finally, he looked up. "Where did you get these?" he asked. My dad hesitated. "From the cabin." The man leaned back in his chair. "You realize what this is, right?" My dad shook his head. "Not exactly." The man tapped the papers. "This land was surveyed years ago. And it sits on top of a mineral deposit." My chest tightened. "What kind of deposit?" He looked at us, then said it. "Rare earth metals." The room went silent. Because even at 12, I knew what that meant. Money. A lot of it. "How much?" my dad asked. The man gave a small, almost disbelieving laugh. "Conservatively," he said, "these rights alone could be worth millions." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. All of it. The struggle. The hunger. The nights in the truck. The broken cabin. And now, this. "Are you sure?" my dad asked. The man nodded. "Very." We drove back to the cabin in silence. Neither of us spoke. Because what do you say after something like that? When we got back, we stood in front of it again. The same broken structure. The same sagging roof. The same cracked wood. But it didn't look the same anymore. It looked like the beginning of something. My dad let out a slow breath. "You know what this means?" I nodded. "Yeah." But he shook his head. "No." He looked at the cabin, then at the land, then at me. "It means we don't stop." That surprised me. "What?" He smiled. Not a relieved smile. Not an easy one. A determined one. "We fix this place," he said. "We build something real." I looked at him. Even now. He nodded. Especially now. Because that's who he was. Not someone who waited for life to change. Someone who built it. Weeks passed. Then months. People started coming. Surveyors. Engineers. Investors. All of them looking at the land. All of them seeing something we couldn't see before. But through all of it, we stayed. We finished fixing the cabin. Rebuilt the roof. Replaced the walls. Turned it into something strong. Something permanent. And every night, we sat on the porch, looking out at the clearing. The same clearing that once looked empty, now filled with possibility. One evening, I asked him something. "Why do you think it was hidden?" I said. He thought about it, then answered. Maybe it wasn't meant for just anyone. I looked at the cabin, at the place that had gone from worthless to everything. "Maybe," I said. He nodded. "Or maybe," he added, "it was meant for someone who needed it most." The wind moved through the trees. Soft, steady, and for the first time in a long time, we weren't worried about what we didn't have. Because sometimes, the biggest changes don't come from what you find. They come from what you build. After you find it,